The Bellas Falls Union High School, November 8th. We're in the family engagement room. Is there any adjustments to the agenda?
Well, I'd like to add one.
Yes.
Under new business, I'd like to talk about possibility of using the gym for basketball, open gym after the fall sports are finished.
Okay. So we're going to add under 8A, discussion on use of the gym. Review and approve board minutes for October 25th. Does anyone have any adjustments they need made to the minutes? I don't see any. Andy,
So moved.
okay. We're gonna approve, we have a motion on the table to approve the minutes of October 25th as written. I'm gonna roll call. I see David Clark,
Aye.
Deb Wright,
Aye.
what else have I got?
Margot, Ian.
Margot,
That's a Jason, isn't it?
Yes.
Ian's here.
Ian is in there, I don't see him.
He's up in the, below David.
Okay, Ian,
I vote yes.
who's the picture? Is that a school board member?
Don't know who the picture is.
Brenda,
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Priscilla?
Aye. Is that Jack?
No, my picture looks there, I believe the picture is Tara Darrow.
Okay, and who's the one in front that I can't see behind that camera?
That is Lisa Terry. The
Okay.
L, the purple L,
Okay,
and then the S is me.
Okay.
Yes, is who, you?
You, me, yeah, it's a shared thing, I have to, so I can control it back here.
the ayes have it, the minutes have been approved. Communication and public comments. I don't have any in the room, is there any online?
Just open it up because we've had it closed, so I don't know if there's any. I don't know if Susan Small here has anything.
Doesn't look like there's any communication or public comments. Let's move on to policies. And Priscilla, I'm gonna hand that over to you. You said we have a special ed update from G10 to D7. You have the floor.
Our special ed policy is a required policy by the state under D7. It was previously under G10, and the basic changes that we did through the committee last week was to add the 2 paragraphs that the state had in theirs, plus the manual that they referred to. Basically, the Agency of Education, as the state education agency, is responsible for the overall provision of a free, appropriate public education to eligible Vermont students with disabilities, and does this through the implementation of the IDEA. The Bellas Falls Union High School then would use the guidelines developed by the Vermont Agency of Education and its most recent edition of the Vermont Special Ed Procedures and Policies Manual regarding special ed issues. A manual designed to assist Vermont school districts in understanding the provisions of the IDEA and meeting its requirements. And that manual can be found on the Vermont Agency of Education's website. The rest of the policy will stay as it was since it was in there from 2011, I believe, when it was adopted. So this would update it and make it current. So basically what we're doing tonight is we're letting you know what the changes are and what we're doing, because we need 10 days before we can adopt it. And we would appreciate any public comment. It will be posted so that the public can comment on this, as well as be available. So if you have comments, if you will let us know. back for the next meetings, and at which time we would want to adopt it.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any questions for Priscilla on that? I see none. You have another policy to go through?
Yes, we had discussed last time that we had a policy in the BFUHS policy committee, just for the high school board, that we wanted to bring to them. And this would be how it would read. It is the policy of the Bellows Falls Union High School Board to recognize, congratulate, and extend appreciation to the staff for their devoted service to the students, families, and staff. The administration of Bellows Falls Union High School will establish a procedure for recognizing staff members for their service. Are there any questions on that? Because that would be under the same kind of guise that we would need to.
So the way that is written, we're not locked into anything. It's up to the administration, the school board to decide what they want to do on an individual basis.
What they would want to do for individuals. They would want to develop some kind of procedure so that, there was some form of equitability for everything that somebody did and that kind of thing.
So they would need to
But
make
would
a
recognize
procedure.
probably starting with even 5 years of service or any kind of service, anything from a plaque to something more substantial. It would be up to them to decide on these things.
And would we need the procedure before we had the policy, or just the policy is there and then administration makes a procedure, and do they share that with us?
Right, they can, we would establish the policy, and then the administration would come up with a procedure for what they would want to do. They could get input from staff members, they could get input from community members if they wanted, from the school board, and then they could bring it to us for, for our input as well as a board.
So all we're doing is starting a policy to allow them to have a procedure.
Right.
Okay.
For them to establish one.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any questions on that? I don't see any on the screen, do you?
I do not.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla.
You're welcome.
Our next is the principal's report, and John, I don't normally do this, but a question came to me earlier, and I'm just hoping maybe you can help us with it. I wasn't quite sure where I should put it in the agenda, but Deb Wright brought to my attention that we have some charges on our warrants for flowers and things for the nurses and support staff, and she's wondering where that comes out of the budget. Do we have a budget line and a policy for buying flowers and things? So it was something that, I'm not sure if you can even answer that today, if that needs to come to the next meeting.
I'll find out.
But if you will, I try to,
Yeah.
it's not, sometimes an email gets by me because I don't watch them closely all
No,
day.
that's
but
fine.
I did see that one, Deb.
Thanks, Molly.
So,
I'll have an
You know,
answer for that.
yeah, the next meeting is, but I think it's important, she watches those warrants. If I
Yeah,
see
no,
she's signed
great.
them, I think it's pretty safe for me to sign them. So I appreciate
Oh my
that.
God, you're trusting me?
Absolutely.
That's
Like-
funny, but thank you, Molly.
I know that you look at them really, really good, so I appreciate knowing that you're doing that.
Thank you.
So other than that, John, the floor is yours. I just wanted to make sure we had that on our
Okay,
scope.
I did send out, sorry it was Sunday, but I did send it out. Had a pretty busy weekend with fall sports. On Friday night, football, our boys continue to dominate and just play outstanding. They demolished Linden Institute on Friday, and now they'll be going to the state final at Rutland against MAU, who they beat earlier in the season. It'll be at 11 a.m. in Rutland. We got the first game, so I don't know if it's good or bad, but I always try and look at the positives. We'll be first there. We'll have a little bit more practice time than maybe some of the other teams who are fit in between and at the end. And just go and do the business and, come back with a bacon. So on Saturday, went up to Burlington and girls field hockey team. They were beaten by South Burlington, but you know what? For those that maybe didn't watch the game, it was a closer game than the score suggested. There's many different views of the venue, how far we have to travel. Every year we voice our concerns. Every year we get told we need to play in Burlington. They went up and represented as well. They played very well. The other team were a good team too. We lost 2 early goals, and I think that was just getting used to things. And then 3 goals are hard to come back from. But you know what? We had an opportunity. So I'm proud of all the kids. They did a great job. I know someone has to win, someone has to be second. But I'm very proud of them. And cross country, the week before, they went to Thetford with a very young team, with the exception of one senior, and they placed second in the division. And they weren't that far behind. They were, I think, 8 or 9 points behind in positioning. So they all represented well, and most of our young kids bettered their time. Though they didn't win the championship, they were very, very pleased at their individual performances. And I was very pleased being up there as well. So I've been around a lot this fall so far.
Did I read that a young lady won her class or something? I saw something about one of the girls had won something. No? Okay.
Not that I can think of. I know at the weekend there was a meet of champions, and Stephanie came 7th, which is phenomenal because that's against everybody else in Vermont. You're racing against everyone in Vermont, so I think that was phenomenal.
Probably that's what I saw.
So
thank you.
No, that was excellent too. NEASC visit is getting closer and closer. The visiting committee will be coming next Monday, and in my little blurb out to board members, I'd love it if you have time on Monday at 9:35, be about 40-minute meeting in the auditorium. Again, as they come in and they visit us, they like talking to everybody, and I'd like us to be well represented everywhere, which I think we are. I don't think I forgot anybody. So if you can spare the time, we'd love to have you give some input on the school from as you see it and what you would like to see. I know you have a lot of input and guidance in the jobs you do, but it's nice to let others know that too, especially the accreditation of NEASC.
Could you show up for that?
Yes, I've put everybody in, but again, they know that I've been very clear, said, look, I'm inviting everybody. If they can make it, great auditorium. You'll have, I think it's about 14, 15 people in all at that time slot. And there's 5 coming, so they'll probably have at least 2 or 3 of their people interviewing and with guided questions. So, and again, please be honest and represent your school well, and that's what we want. We want to keep working to improve. So, and that's, I believe in the NEASC process. I was a big motion in getting them back and getting us reaccredited. And as I've said before, I like it so much that I'm now serving on the commission, and I've got to see other schools. I've got to see what they're doing. It's been good learning for us and for me. And hopefully we can just continue to get better as we move through this pandemic and get back to
John, can you tell the public what NEASC stands for?
NEASC, New England Association of Schools and Colleges. They are the #1 accreditation society in our area, and they cover many schools. There's not many schools in New England that aren't part of them. I can report out a better number if you want me to. I can research it, but I haven't done that for tonight. Facilities update. On the tip of our tongue, we opened our Buildings and Grounds Committee met. It was a good meeting after we got started. I had a bit of a trouble on the Zoom piece, but we pulled it through, and we met to discuss the bids. We had 2 bids, and we decided, though, as a group, that the specs and the RFP were not clear. And it was decided to decline both bids for now and seek help in writing a clear RFP and have the full board meet with the 2 engineers, our previous one and a representative from M&E Engineering who did our 262-page report to explain that assessment of HVAC and maybe guide us in the writing of a better RFP. I've also reached out to, at the advice of actually the VPA, I reached out to, what's his name? David Pickle at Visbit, and because I was advised to reach to him and his fellow worker, Ben Provost, and Ben is giving us some advice on how to do a better job at writing it, who to contact for more information, both in Visbit and the AOE, and hopefully we'll get a better product. And where are we? And then send out the new RFP to a broader range of engineering companies and advertise in popular Northeast publications and anywhere else that might get us some quality to return the bids. COVID update. Currently, our current vaccination rate, that was more what I was looking at, students is 30.1. We have 94 cards in now out of 312. Still pedaling along slowly. I don't know any quicker way than to continually ask parents if they would mind sending us their cards. I know that our staff members are now, if they don't want to send them in, I believe, Andy, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they can go in and show their cards to Jo Ellen, our human resource person, and that will be counted as seeing it. So we might want to think about that for our nurse, maybe in the buildings, for if parents don't want to upload, they could come in and show them. I think we'd get a more accurate count of percentage-wise of kids that are on there. But again, that
I
just
so I don't know of students uploading cards. I know that we set one up for staff. So if there's something set up for
parents, well, we wanted to. What we've been doing all along is looking to only count them with showing their cards, and it was set up to upload them if they wanted to. Again, it was a choice. It wasn't you had to. And parents did answer as well if their child was vaccinated or not, and a lot said yes, but didn't upload cards. So,
Ricky, do you know if that was set up similar to the one you set up? Sorry?
Wasn't involved.
You weren't involved?
no,
Okay.
no, he wasn't involved.
Might be worth looking at the 2, because we set it up as a Google form and made it
Yeah, we did too.
pretty full. Okay.
Yep.
Um,
But the actual verbal yes versus the uploading your card is hugely different. I mean, last time I looked at the verbals were in the 80s. So
We saw that with Aaron Rodgers also, right?
correct. Yeah. Okay. And I think that was all from me until later.
Okay,
I have a question.
Yep.
yes.
Mr. Brody, what does your gut tell you that your vaccination percentage is? Would you say you're 50%, 60, 70?
My
What do you
gut,
think you're at 30?
no, not at 30. I believe we're My gut,
Yeah.
off the record, believes we're over 60. Because I've done a lot of the contact trace calling over, not so much this week, but the prior 2 weeks, and at least half the parents were saying, oh yeah, my kid's vaccinated.
How can we help you?
Again, like I suggested there, maybe if parents could show their cards rather than have to upload them, that might be easier. We could get a more accurate count very quickly then, or they could just come in and show them. I don't know what is the best way, but I'd like us to do that to get a clear count. As I say, we've got a lot of yeses, over 80% of yeses, but not the follow through on cards. So I don't think.
That seems odd to me that somebody would say yes, but not want to show you the card.
Right.
I get why if you're not vaccinated, you're like, get away from me, I don't want to talk to you, or vice versa. I get the whole HIPAA thing, I don't understand.
Well, our form was pretty simple. It was, are you vaccinated? Yes, no, or don't want to tell us. And if you are, would you mind uploading your card? And that was it.
Thank you.
I got Priscilla and then Deb Wright.
I got a few things, so I'll start with one and then let Deb go, and then you can come back to me. On the vaccination things, the nurse can document with what, just showing, just like she does with other vaccinations, but how about a competition between the classes? You know, which class can get the highest percentage in?
I'm
You know,
willing to try, and we
anything-
put out
anything.
two
Hey,
Dunkin' Donut, we
you've
put
got
out
lots of
Dunkin'
great
Donut
ideas.
cards for uploading your thing, and that didn't, it increased a little bit, but it wasn't huge.
Okay,
So I
and
think everything we do to help would be good to get them in.
any ideas you come up with, I'm sure you come up with a great bunch of them. And anyway, the absence days kind of go with that. We had gotten like 97.4% attendance rates for 2021 when at the last meeting, which was 2.6% absence. And we asked for your rates to compare them to 2019. There were 261 absent days in 2021. There were, at the same time frame, there were 883 absence days for 2019. That's a attendance rate of 92.67% because there were 321 students, and an absence rate of 7.43%. So although we're fussing about the attendance and what COVID is doing to us, we've got better attendance now than what we had in 2019 when it was a regular normal, what we call normal school. So I'm wondering if some of that impact is the social emotional and the wanting to have that contact with people and wanting to be there and just so much wanting to have a normal school and kind of thing.
Well, that was, I read an article, regarding this fall and look at news articles and on the news about how there's more fights in schools and everything, and yet our discipline was a lot lower this fall as well as the attendance than it was in 2019. So it's kind of contradicting. I guess it depends what news you watch and what
That's
show
good
you watch.
information, Priscilla.
That sure does.
That's pretty,
Pretty astounding.
yeah.
But that was real facts, because that was taken from, Power School and from attendance. So the same as our data on discipline was.
I only went to the 25th because ours went to the 25th for the 261 days. So I compared to the 25th, I left off the other 2 days, which were another 50 absences. Still running far above what we
Still
are
high,
this year.
yeah. Still high.
Deb, you're next.
Yeah, my only question had to do with if we're using things such as photographs that people take a picture of the card with their camera and then upload it to the high school. Is that what's being done? I mean,
Yeah,
otherwise it's difficult for parents to get photocopies of things or that sort of thing. That's all I meant.
Yeah,
That's it.
we were asking for just any photo, like from your phone, take a picture and upload it.
Good.
try and keep it as easy as possible. But I think if we were to go to showing it, we would certainly have a higher rate, because I think it'd be less pressure, and parents not having to upload whether they wanted to show us or whether they just couldn't be bothered or didn't want to do uploading, because it can be a pain sometimes to get your phone out, and if you're not super
Get the phone out
techno,
all the time, but they
if
can't
you're
do
not
that.
super techno, it can be tough to upload.
Yeah,
Right.
and my only concern, of course, is that people tend to lose things, especially something as such a small piece of paper as that is. I'm worried about mine deteriorating just in sitting in my wallet. So I wonder if, if you release them to your high schoolers, are they going to be diligent about making sure they return home? Parents don't have to worry about what happens between here and the school, that sort of thing. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Broadley.
Thank you.
Andy?
So just a couple of things, and answer Mr. Terry's question too. Just let this person answer real quick. So when we did the mandate for faculty and for staff, we found a couple of things. We created this real slick, here you go, upload your thing. How hard could that be, right? The same idea. Well, we have some folks that are, as Mr. Broadley just said, technologically not as savvy. So we had to then create a way for them to come in, and we would take a picture or photocopy it, and then we would upload it for them. So we gave that accommodation. Then we ran into, and this goes right to Mr. Terry, what you were talking about, we found that there are some employees, for whatever reason, did not feel comfortable providing us with a photocopy or a picture or to have any documentation, solid documentation of their that vaccination card. So then we decided to go to the method of having where they could come into, we took Joe Allen, Human Resources, because it was a kind of a neutral place where they could come in and they could physically show the card, and then we would count that. So we had three levels to try and get to where we are. We still have some folks, Mr. Terry, who just, for whatever belief system, and they just don't want to give up that information. They don't feel they should have to, some of them. And so I suspect we're dealing with all levels at where it is across the board. But I think that the other thing is, it's a little touchy. I need to talk with the nurses. There is a state database, but I don't believe that we can go in it to count the rates. That if they needed to go in, if we needed to decide on a close contact, if a kiddo was vaccinated, they may or may not be able to look at it. There's been some back and forth, so I can't recall exactly what Secretary French had said, but that data, at first they were not allowed to access that database, and then there was some easing of that to try and minimize close contact. So if they can go in, and if they can use that database, we could then just go in and count that, because that's what's been submitted. But I think there are a few laws around that and everything. So. But if we can, we will use that method, which could accelerate this whole thing. So Ian has his hand up.
Ian?
Yeah, thanks. So I guess do a comment and a question. The comment is that it sounds like masks work, keeping kids from sharing the cold even. But the question about the facilities is, how soon can we expect to see these engineers at a meeting? Are they going to just come to a regularly scheduled meeting, or will we be, how far out will that be? I'm just worried that this project's going to keep getting, delayed. It's pretty important.
Absolutely, we all agree, and that's where we got calls out to them. It's gonna happen. And I didn't hear your first comment.
Just my comment was that it seems that masks work if we're having so much success with keeping kids in school compared to before COVID. Nobody's getting colds even, sounds like.
Do you have a date, John?
No, I don't have a date at this moment, but I've got
you've
calls
got-
into both engineers, and I was hoping that at some point next week before Thanksgiving, that we can get them together, and maybe Ian do like a minimum of Zoom, just have everybody on Zoom and be able to meet with them individually, because we can invite one in and keep one in the waiting room, and you won't have any of this crossover, and question them the way that we'd like to question them. So.
And it's probably gonna be a special meeting. We're just gonna call a meeting to get this done. We're not gonna wait till the next board meeting.
So
We worked hard on that.
I'm hopeful I'll have an answer tomorrow and get a date or a couple of dates, and then we can I'll put out an email to everybody what works. So.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else for Mr. Broadley before we go to the business office? Oh, Priscilla, you're up.
Yeah, I wanted to comment, the other information I had asked for, and since you didn't do it in your principal's report, I'm going to comment on it.
I gave it to you.
Was the AP exams.
Yep.
It's not an easy thing to get a 4 or a 5 on an AP exam. It's pretty difficult, and 19 of our students got 4s and 5s. To pass, you have to get a 3. They're scaled 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 30 of our students got 3 or above, which is absolutely a wonderful thing, especially in a year when we were having so much COVID out there and having difficulty with doing instruction and everything. So I think we should be really proud of our students and just be able to say how extraordinary they are. I was wondering why there was one class, I'm assuming the whole class took the one where we had quite a few of them that didn't pass. There were 4 that did in that one class,
Yeah, that
and
was
11 that did
English
not.
class.
And it might have been a beginning class.
No, in our pre-season meetings, we discussed that with all of our AP teachers, and I guess it's not pointing any fingers, because yes, they're teaching, but the kids are taking the test. But how can we help them? How can we make them better? How can we get our kids' scores up and make them better? And that's ongoing. I mean, there is workshops that they're going to be doing before they take the next set of exams, and as they're teaching this year, and they're all working in a kind of PLC together on supporting each other. And telling them what works for one and what works for the other. So I felt pretty good about those few meetings that we had. So.
And well over half of our students passed on, if you look at the overall number of exams that were taken, so that's good.
Yeah, I'll give all those numbers up, 3 and above.
Anything else, Mr. Broadley? I see none. Let's move to the business office. 4?
Yeah, gonna share what we have together for preliminary assessments in the high school. So that way we have an idea of the impact that the SU will have in the budget. We're not purchasing cars. No more.
One more tap bigger, Ricky, and I might be able to see it. Oh, that's good. That's my old eyes.
Thank you. I did try to download it in a different format, so, because we usually have that issue that you can't see it.
Okay, 4, you got the table.
So you do have your comparison from the past budget for FY '22 to the current one, which is the first portion, which is FY '23. So the overall total will be 5.9 compared to the past one for last year, which was 6.2. You can see as well at the end the difference between both of the years. which one were the areas that had the biggest impact in the budget. So the current budget that we are assessing for the high school will be at least $99,000 below the one from last year. This is still preliminary because it hasn't been approved yet by the SU board, but the idea is that this will be the budget not to go up, but to maybe go a little bit more down. So we see the biggest change was
So this is all SU stuff,
the SU,
Yep.
yes.
good?
Because it's a big portion that drives the budget for the high school. And so we do have food service. It's just gonna be a standard amount of assessment of $180,000, which is the biggest impact in the budget. As well as transportation, it went down at least $65,000 from current years. The reason for that is the amount of students that are being transported from the high school. So we assess according to that. And then we do have a slight adjustment for the physical service. That is due to HR now, it just reports to superintendent. Technology had a slight adjustment as well. And then the overall other changes that we see is, so the board, we do see that it increased. The reason for the increment in the board was we do have the auditing services that they go up at least $5,000. And the other aspect is we have special items like FACTV is an add-on to the board's budget, as well as legal services. Then we have custodial. Custodial is actually everything that implies in the SU offices. So the changes in custodial will be changes in the rent, insurance for the buildings, as well as the communication line, which is internet and the cell phones that transportation is using, as well as the nurses. So we had to change some of the cell phones for the nurses and upgrade them to iPhones due to the need of having to communicate for COVID, as well as some students that have certain special needs that the nurses need to have an iPhone to communicate and upload some data for these students. And then overall, the price of oil, we all know it keeps going up. Same thing with the superintendent's line is change in staff, as well as benefits. Benefits did went up 6%. And then the last line, which is special ed, the change in special ed is now special ed portion that we used to get for grants, and it changed. We had a decrease of almost $100,000 is on special eds, according to the change on how everything was assessed from the state as due to Act 173.
So this is the SU budget report for the high school.
Yes.
When we get to the high school, are we gonna be able to see breakdowns of our lines when you have them lined up like that?
Once we have some budget committee meetings, because that's what I was talking to Flora today about. Now we've got a little bit of a clearer picture. I would love us to have 1 or 2 budget meetings so we can go through those before presenting, because
Absolutely.
I've got to meet with Flora this week to find out. I need a lot of explaining on a lot of lines before I want to meet with everybody to go through them all, because there's I wouldn't say lack of understanding, but just not knowing why a certain line is at a certain amount.
It's important to be able to answer a question if somebody asks you.
Yes.
You can't answer anything with that.
Right now, for the high school budget, we are 70%, 25% that we're missing is the miscellaneous. So Mr. Bradley can't do a lot with anything that has to do with, the increase in, benefits as well as the changes in salaries for the 1.5 increase. So right now, he would just be looking at all his miscellaneous expenses to
But he
see.
can even look at his staff. I mean, there's ways to, I mean, it is touchable if he wants to touch it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just, I'm getting
And that-
off what you're trying to do for me
Right,
tonight,
right.
but there are things, a budget is very touchable until somebody approves it.
So, right now, I provided him the last portion that he needed, so he could just, analyze and finalize the, budget for the, high school.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Flora?
I do. Flora, when you were talking about the high school and
Mhm.
have a budget meeting, would that be on the spreadsheet that you sent out to us this morning? That's automatically generated, the budget versus actual report? Is that what you're talking about?
So the budget versus actual is your current, budget and how you are, year to date in your expenses. It's not, the same thing as what we presented, it's
Okay.
just totally different.
But that's the meeting Mr. Broadley's talking about, so he wants to
Yeah,
find out what these line items mean and why money's going allocated to different places that he'll be able to drill down so he can answer questions. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so
Okay.
if you see your changes, your budget versus actual, you are gonna see that you're gonna have a lot of, balances that are negative when it comes to your, salaries, because what we budgeted last year for salaries is not current salaries. So that is a big impact there that we cannot adjust, because once we upload budgets, it gets set in stone. So that is, what you're gonna see. Now, if you're talking about anything in miscellaneous areas, that we could just go over if you have any questions.
I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page of what's gonna happen. I'm good. Thank you.
Well,
So when we get this in our high school budget, we have a WNSU line. So when she's got it broken down here. So we can't do anything about that. But there's a lot of other things we can talk about and break down and see what they are. There used to be this report that we could see every single line and see what it was, what it meant. You know, if we were spending $100,000 on a driver ed teacher, why were we doing, those
Right,
questions were
right.
asked, and those are kind of things that we can look at.
but we do have the budget versus actual that goes out every other week.
Mhm.
That is what Jason has.
But what you're asking for is for this year, for the high school budget to look at it, you would like that line by line type.
Well, this is currently what we have that I share with Mr. Broadley. So, do you want me to share it as well?
No, we'll wait for a budget meeting.
Okay.
I'm just, and I know I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I apologize for that, but last year, the way we did the budget, I felt very uncomfortable being able to tell any community member what I voted on. Because it was so consolidated like that I couldn't tell them why my superintendent line was, $150,000 more than last year.
So you
Well,
want to have,
I can't tell you these lines,
I understand.
but I can tell you, I will be able to tell you every other line as we drill down it, and that's what I want to do soon. I mean, I want to meet with Flora this week to get my questions answered.
And I don't mean that one in particular, I'm
No,
just saying
no.
that when somebody comes and says, why is this, it's really, and maybe some board members don't get those questions, but I think a lot of us must. We've been on these boards a long time, and people, that's what they hold us accountable for, is the budget. And so I just want to be able to feel like I understand it better than I did last year. Sorry, I think I said that the last meeting too, so I'm
Yes.
sorry I keep saying it, but I'm very passionate about that, if you haven't figured it out.
I did get it, and I spoke to him today as well, and, he agreed that, he'll do his review and his analysis, and then we could just,
And then we'll go through it as a budget committee and then we'll present it to the board.
Okay.
That's what I'd like to do. But I mean, very quickly, we don't need months
Yeah,
to
we
do it.
don't need to wait till
Oh,
December
no, no,
31st.
it's not, I've started working on it, but I have a whole list of questions that I want to know
Okay,
that will involve huge reductions.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Priscilla?
Yeah, and that's why we're getting so many questions too, I think, from the community, because the reports in the town reports last year were so minimal that they really didn't know either. We're lucky that our budgets did pass. But, so what you're saying, let me clarify, is that in about 2 weeks, the budget committee, because I'd like to be able to plan on being on the budget committee, will be meeting to be able to discuss this, because
Yeah, I'd like to.
I know the
to-
boards were talking last spring that we wanted it in October, and so we're already pushing out a ways. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. Who was on the budget committee? That's what, I guess that would be my question.
I think technically we all are.
I don't want to burst the bubble here. 2 weeks is the week of Thanksgiving, is that?
I know.
what you're-
No, I want to
Are you
do,
planning on
I'd
having
like-
it?
no, I'd
Well,
like
I don't want us to say we're gonna have it in 2 weeks and then not have it.
I'd like us to meet next week if we could find the time.
So you're looking for next week for a time.
The ones on the budget committee are Molly, Jack, Priscilla, Deb, and Jason. But any other
You're in
member can
trouble.
also participate. There you go.
That's a good team.
Better bring your big boots.
No, no, no. Oh, so that.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
What's it look like, Andy?
Put this away, and I didn't. Good
Next
thing,
week?
huh?
Yep,
Not Monday, preferably not
I
Monday.
got a lot of purple, but, let's see, there's
Tuesday,
a
Wednesday, or
Rockingham,
Thursday night.
Rockingham board meeting on Monday. There's negotiations on Wednesday.
Tuesday or Thursday?
Yeah, I saw something on my calendar for Tuesday, but I don't know what that is. Oh. Effective and appropriate management of school boards. I should go to that, though. Something I got roped into as a new superintendent, so. I mean, it depends on what time you're looking at.
I'm open.
I mean,
5, 6.
is your,
7.
I mean, yeah.
5 is not good for the lumberyard drum.
I mean, Thursday would be ideal for me. I will tell you that. I mean, I don't know how that works for everybody else, but I don't know if my schedule's for driving.
So that's the 18th one.
And who do you have on that group? Can you read it off again? I'm sorry.
Molly, Jack, Priscilla, Deb, and
Yeah.
Jason.
You want, I can figure this.
No, Jack,
Molly, Jack, Priscilla, Deb, and Jason. All right.
what time? What time works for you?
6 or after.
You want to go 6?
you want to say 6 o'clock here?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
so I'm gonna get it out tonight, so, or tomorrow.
Are you just
Thank you.
meeting with him, with
that
her
okay?
first, or
Just
with
the-
us as well for that? You're starting out with all of us, or you
No,
said?
I'm gonna meet.
We'll meet
this
during the
week
day
with Flora,
sometime, yeah.
and then I can go through with Andy too, but I'd like to meet with the boards on the 18th with the
Okay.
board members.
Okay.
And hopefully we have almost a finished product by then, I think.
I put it down.
Okay, that's okay if that works for everybody.
Are we all done? All right, nothing more for Flora. Then we're gonna move to committees, building and grounds. Can we get that off the?
Yes.
Thank you. Building and Grounds Committee update, as you heard in the principal's report, we did meet. apologize for anybody that, I think David's the only one that maybe was trying to get on, and we didn't do well with our Zoom meeting, but we're gonna get better at that. We rely a lot on Andy and Nicole, and they were both busy, so. I think by the time we finally actually started doing some work on it, that it was a decent meeting. David has put a lot into this, and I think we finally like understood what he was trying to do for us. And I don't know, I went out of there feeling better about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and getting something written up that is much better sounding. All we did at that last meeting was work on trying to get these bids done for the HVAC system. As John said, we had 2 bids come in. We did not accept either bid at this point. We're gonna get an appointment to meet with these 2 people just to hear them out. One guy put a lot of effort into a 200 and some odd page report. So he's gonna be able to help us maybe understand some of this stuff. Margot has some, giving us a little bit of help on how the process is working. And David has a lot of input on, what we really ought to be looking at in the school for the HVAC. Everybody has things that they're just better at than other things. And so we kind of leaned on David a little bit to help us understand where we ought to be, what we should have been doing, where we went wrong, to come up with these 2 bids that were just so different it wasn't funny. Description was the same, price was so different it was, we did something wrong. So really, we're getting help to get a better RFP, is that what it's called? Sent out with a better description, getting it sent out to a much larger range of companies, so that we get some better looking bids in here, and take care of our school the right way, not just jump on something because we think it needs to get done quick. We want it done, and we want to get it done as quickly as we can, but we want to know that we're doing it right this time. And we're gonna lean on David a little bit to kind of make sure we're getting it done right this time. This is like our 3rd try, and we're spending a lot of money, and we gotta get it right. And it's a lack of knowledge for none of us really know a lot about this. So we're gonna use these other 2 guys to help us learn. This guy that wrote this report, I mean, he understands the system. We just gotta make sure we're getting what we need. Any additions? Did I get all that we did, Jason? David, you got anything? You're muted.
Let me make sure I'm muted here. If you're querying me, I'm going to suggest that there are 2 things we need to consider under HVAC. One is what I would refer to as health safety, which is the degree to which our HVAC system is working efficiently to exchange air, which is one of the CDC questions that came up in August of 2020. The other, based on some of the information that was in the ME report, is there are some indications that perhaps the way the building is vented internally could impact us negatively with regard to what's known as fire safety. And I think we have 2 very big topics there that we need to have a clear understanding of, which is how effective our HVAC system is in containing and preventing the transmission of disease. These days it's COVID, but who knows what it will be in the future. And also whether in fact in this very open building, which has no physical fire stops in it whatsoever, do we have any concerns about the possibility of the drafting of the HVAC system rapidly spreading a fire in one part of the building to the other. Okay, that's how I would define what the asks are. Now, in terms of RFP, Chris Hosden did something what I think was actually pretty heads up when he brought in ME, and that is that it appears we turned him loose and said, tell us everything. And as a result of that, we have, you know, a 230 or better page document, which in effect describes everything that we would want to consider in a bid spec. And we have to bear in mind the fact that Glenn Thomas, who engineered 2013 and 2018 HVAC upgrades, may have gotten a few things wrong. But at the same time, Mr. Thomas thinks that ME may have gotten a few things wrong as well. And I think it's very important that we reconcile those differences before we do go out to bid. So there's the David overview.
Thank you, David. Margot, do you have anything to add? Okay. So that's building and grounds in a nutshell, and we're gonna just keep working on this HVAC system for right now. Is there any other committees that need to report? None that I'm aware of. I think we're clear. Unfinished business for discussion. Recap of vaccination rate. I think we just covered that, didn't we, John?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you're up. Update on Haber grant.
Okay, I sent out in the packet as well all the stuff that I have privy to. I still don't have a cover letter for the payment. I don't know if there's one in the office. I don't know if there was one that was sent with a check. But all Chris's correspondence with Carolyn Hannon, memo from me detailing the contact with the foundation that I had, update on the Haber accounting. Flora ran a report and had everything that we've spent the money on and how much we have left. And then I added a written proposal at the end of that report. And basically my proposal draft is to add a half credit of financial literacy graduation requirement for the class of 2025. The course will be offered to juniors and seniors. Again, the staffing is put in the budget a half FTE paid out of the donation for funding, which is approximately 35K, give or take a little bit, beginning next school year. That teacher will complete next gen personal finance, which some of the teachers have actually gone through some of this stuff, which is free to support learning. And then have more teachers as we move along to develop it, be trained without additional cost to our district. Other considerations, I'd like to budget out of that money at least $3,000 per year for online learning to support students' needs towards graduation. And right now that includes a lot of health that kids are doing because we are still half a teacher down on that. And Ms. Gottschalk, who's doing a great job she teaches some of our health classes, Health 2, but she also has science. So it's hard, it would be robbing Peter to pay Paul. So we're doing the best we can, and our counseling department are doing a great job in replanning kids around health. I know it's not a huge requirement, but the kids are getting it when they need it and when they can do it. Scheduling, we would put, the course would be offered 11th to 12th graders, and it's determined that it would be necessary, if it was determined that 9th and 10th graders wanted to take the course, we could do that also. Having a half a credit requirement, then you could put it up as either Health 102 or PE, or a second semester AP course, so we could fit it into our master schedule pretty well. Teachers will spend the next couple of years developing curriculum for the courses. We've already have one teacher who's working on that right now, and in a teaching a prototype of financial literacy this semester, which we're hoping to continue next semester. And then financial literacy will be offered as a full credit course. That's the development of it, starting, well, I put this year, but really we're working with a prototype. 11th and 12th graders strongly encouraged to sign up, and more next year. So I would take out that 21, 22, because we're not going to be able to do that because we're in that year. 22, 23 school year, we're going to put it in the master schedule to develop and provide 11th and 12th graders with the access when they plan their schedules. And as I say, if we use the money right now to pay for a half FTE, that will remove half an FTE from our spending budget. So that will reduce certainly by half a math teacher, covering the funds with our donation. So, and with that said, that should see us through the next 6 to 7 years. And again, Maureen Haver loves us, loves financial literacy, loves Bellows Falls Union High School. Who knows what they're going to give us down the road? So, my fingers are crossed, and hopefully I can do us proud to get more finances.
David Clark with the hand up.
Yep.
David Clark.
Thank you, Molly. I'll lower that hand. Okay, the Haber documentation that John broadly rounded up, and John, I actually appreciate your effort here. The first reference that I can find in this is Wednesday, October 16th, 2019, a note from Carolyn Hannon to Chris Hodgson. And I have to tell you that I'm not certain we have actually a response from Mr. Hodgson. And my recollection of the initial rollout of Haver from Principal Hodgson was that there were 4 main purposes: financial literacy, distance learning, math, and science. I notice that distance learning is not one of the areas that John mentioned, but that may have just been an oversight. Okay, that's October 16th, 2019. The next one I find is on October 22nd, 2019. And it's a note from Carolyn Hannon to Chris Hodgson. It says, "Did you mention you have a written plan for the funds after speaking with your senior management team?" And about 45 minutes later, Mr. Hodgson replied, and this is only in part, "We have a range of ideas, but not yet a written plan." Okay, that's it. That's it. That's October 2019. There's nothing in 2020 that has surfaced so far. And this brings us to Friday, October 15th, 2021. And John broadly asked of Ms. Hannon, "Is there any official paperwork for this donation?" Well, if there's any official paperwork for this donation, it's still missing in action. And John broadly did query former Principal Hodgson on the 16th, I believe, and Mr. Hodgson's reply was, "I have nothing except a long string of emails, which I have shared with you." Well, I don't have that long string of emails. And as I suggested early on, these emails should be available on the WNESU servers because they're WNESU property, and we might have some sort of idea of what was involved in that. And I have to point something out here. We do have a proposal tonight from Principal Broadley. It says, this is the document called BFUHS Financial Literacy Proposal Draft. Staffing. Budget a halftime FTE math teacher from the funding, approximately $35K, beginning school year 22-23. And it goes on to say curriculum. Teacher will spend the next 2 years developing a curriculum for these courses. Okay, we're talking 4 years after the initial offer of Haber money before we actually do something concrete with it. And I bluntly think that that's an embarrassment to this school, that we have been gifted $250,000 and we have absolutely no idea what we're going to do with it, except as documented in an expenditure report dated October 22nd, which indicates that we spent about $14,000 or $15,000, and is entirely on BYU, that's Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, BYU classes online, and a few things from the Vermont Virtual Learning Consortium. Okay, now I got a problem with this. And the problem is that anyone who's been looking at high school warrants for a while knows damn well that for years and years and years, items like the BYU online courses have been part and parcel of the BFUHS budget, and those funds were expended from that BFUHS general fund, if I'm using the term correctly, Flora. And I am unhappy to see that absolutely nothing has happened in 2 years of a substantive nature with Haver. We don't even know, shall we say, based on primary sources, why exactly Haver gave us the money in the first place, or what they intended for us to do with it. And I think before we go any further, we need to know exactly what it was Haver intended. I am not happy with the fact that we have to rely on third-hand representations from now 2 successive administrations of this school, and we don't have a clue as to what Haber, in their own words, intended for the use of this money. And I am going to go just a little bit further and say that if we can't nail it down, maybe what we should do is make up the difference that we have spent to take items off budget and return it. But before we do that, I really think that we should find out, what Haber actually intended. If there are emails, I've said this to you before, if there are emails between Principal Hodgson and Haver, they will be archived on the WNESU servers. Maybe we need to have a look at that. Okay. So yeah, I appreciate the fact, John, that you do, have some ideas here. I'm not at all happy with the 2 years from now timetable. I don't think that's acceptable. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, David. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Priscilla.
I'm assuming that it was financial literacy, distance learning, science and math. And if so, I would say that the financial literacy, personal finance that is being planned is something that we certainly can go ahead with. I would say that we can't put it in as a graduation requirement until 2026, because the requirements for the incoming class for this year have already been established. So we really can't change that for that time frame. I do note that in the November 25th, 2019 minutes, that David moved to accept the generous gift, and he noted areas of financial literacy, online coursework, the study of economics, and the study of science. So that has been documented. So I think moving forward, the financial literacy certainly is within our realm of being able to do that. And I don't see any problem with our proceeding with that.
Thank you, Priscilla. Anyone else? Haver Grant. All right, the next one we have on here is budget discussion, but I think we just did that, didn't we?
Mhm.
All right, so we're gonna move on to that. So new business, excuse me, new business for discussion is use of the gym. That's always been a hot topic here for quite a while, and I guess I'm interested to know, Mr. Broadley, what are how do we use the gym?
Okay, so we have a facility use form that we fill out when anyone wants to use our gym for anything, and we look at it, and we look at what is scheduled for our school, our kids. So, if there's a play on or whatever, that trumps us letting people use the building. If there is an associated cost, if we need maintenance, that's all on the form. So that would be the first area. We do promote, if it's for our own kids and for our own local kids, meaning all different ages, I presume that it's just an open type gym where anybody can go.
So are there times where,
I think
gym is open?
between seasons, where coaches aren't allowed to practice 2 weeks prior to, for example, the basketball season starts on the 29th of November. So the 2 weeks prior to that, which would be up to the 15th of November, any of our coaches, contracted coaches, couldn't work with the kids, but they could do stuff with anyone.
What if a kid just wants to go in and shoot the ball around?
We would need some sort of adult supervision. We'd have to have it documented, as I say, in a facility use form. So like if Jason wanted to come in and run an open gym, he would fill out the facility use form, put it down. There wouldn't be any cost because there's no, you don't really need a custodian or anything unless, you might, I don't know.
But we need to add that and the person to the insurance
Okay,
in case something happens.
Okay, yeah, we have to get some, either, if it's our own kid.
Okay, hold on, he's gonna have a meltdown here in a second.
No.
I guess my question is, in my past dealings with this in other districts, was that the liability form, the person who was asking to use it had to provide their own insurance.
Correct.
For us to add insurance on to any person who came on here would mean we'd be taking on that, number one, the liability, but number two, the costs. So the question is, if an organization wanted to come in and use our facility, do they have to provide any proof of insurance?
Yes, they do.
What kind of insurance do they have to prove? Just health insurance or?
No, they'd have to.
Insurance for that group.
There would be something that would state exactly what they need. We might need to ask Visbit. I don't know how often.
Yeah, we need a liability insurance. In case anything happens.
And that's only to protect the school and the institution, because if someone were to get hurt and we allowed them into our facility, then we accept the liability for that injury. And everybody's friends until someone's kid gets hurt and like their whole career is gone. So that's when it becomes contentious. So it's just to make that's the coverage piece.
So Molly, thanks for putting this on. Actually, my question is this, real simple. The middle school is allowing kids open gym next week for basketball. And I know in years past, you could not get in this gym until basketball started on the day of with a different regime. And I really believe that you're different. And I'm hoping that after fall sports, which is next Monday, that you have maybe a teacher would volunteer to sit and so kids can have an open gym for a couple hours. I'm hoping that you would do that. And actually, it's on page 5 of our policy handbook for boards. Page 5 of the school board says facilities, transportation, and food service. So we actually have control over the gym as a board. It says adopts policies governing use of the public buildings, grounds, and equipment. So if I would have known that 10 years ago when I was trying to get in the gym every day after football, I probably would have came to the board instead of that previous administration. But on this, I think Mr. Bradley would.
I'm open for, you know me, well, those that know me know I like keeping our kids busy and keeping them going. And if it makes them happy and healthy, that's great. My only reservation is on the 22nd, it'll be closed for redoing the floor.
Yeah.
So it would be anywhere from the Monday the 15th, that week. We could open it up that week.
And so, like last year, just to further explain, like So last year, I know, COVID was, I mean, it's still a thing, but it's less, in my opinion. I'm not a doctor or nurse, whatever. So last year, kids, we couldn't practice, couldn't get in the gym until the state said, go. And then, so what was happening was, okay, they couldn't use our gym and their pod with their friends. They're all over the state, going to Rutland and everywhere else. You have to travel, you get the dark nights. I prefer our kids in our gym practicing now because every other school is already doing it. You know what I mean? And I'm a competitive guy, so I want to win. And I think if we can have some advantages, it's healthy for the kids. It's great for their mental health. It's great for all that stuff. So that's all. And I think
I'll
think that
definitely see what we can
you'll do
get.
it. Yeah.
See what we can get working. See if we have, if it's only our kids and we have a staff volunteering, are we all set?
That's different, right, so I was looking at an outsider group coming in where you had said, like, if Mr. Terry wants to run it, that's where we have to.
Isn't he a staff member? He gets
I
his
don't count him
little
as an
check at the end of the
outsider.
year. I think he might be protected.
Yeah, I don't count you as an outsider.
Well, I know my son last year was playing
just
until
asking.
December 16th outside. So.
I mean, I think we're in better shape.
I mean,
this year.
that I would want to double check with Visbit, and then again, where my worry is I wouldn't also want to put Mr. Terry, using that example, in a situation where he might also become personally liable, and his homeowner's insurance then might get tapped.
No, I'm not necessarily looking to do it myself. I mean,
We're using that as hypotheticals and so, but if we had a teacher who was there, 100%, that would be something that's an event that we're putting on, so then there would be no need for the outside stuff.
Priscilla?
I'd like clarification on that. Basketball starts the 29th and they can practice 2 weeks before that?
No, kids can do whatever, whenever they want in between.
The coaches
What
can't
it
be
is
part of it.
their coaches that we've contracted can't work with them. It's in any sport.
They can't
By
work
BPA.
before the 29th or they can't
2
work
weeks
before
prior
50?
to season beginning. So pre-season starts on November 29th.
9th,
So if
okay.
you back that down for 14 days.
So they can't practice between the 15th and the 29th with them?
with them.
Okay.
So
okay.
you
You
can
can't have
run
instruction.
Okay, I know, because I was
They
thinking,
couldn't,
I was
but
thinking the
like-
other way.
like
that
I
they-
could go
You can have
in-
what they call,
I could
Before
go in,
that.
they call captain's
I understand.
practices.
right, but then there's no adults, then if a kid gets
No, you
hurt-
can have an adult, you can still have an adult there, you can't.
Oh, yeah, glad you have have an adult there.
I understand.
I think I might have an adult, actually. I may have an adult.
That'd be great.
Actually, I think I've got one. Yeah.
I think that would be great for the kids.
I think it's just great for,
Well, it'd give them, at least
We
it would
need to
give them
use
that
that,
week, and then the week that the floor gets done, half of it's Thanksgiving anyway.
Right.
And then when they come back, they've got a
Right.
brand new floor to play.
And it's
So-
boys and girls open gym for
Yeah.
all of the high school
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
good, thank you. Date for next meeting. Got so excited about the gym being used, I wasn't prepared. The next date is actually the 22nd, which is the Monday before Thanksgiving. That's never a good week for us. It never works
Well,
well.
I'm gonna try and get a special meeting though, that, the end of,
Okay, so we're gonna move our next meeting to, because we're gonna have some budget meetings, we're gonna have a special meeting for the HVAC, buildings, grounds, so our next actual meeting is going to be 13th of December.
That's really a long time.
It is,
How about the 29th of November?
we can do that. Is that good? Is somebody else got something on the 29th?
Right now, that I can tell.
Okay, there we go, we're taking it.
Okay.
November 29th,
6:30?
6:30. I heard that. Do we have an executive session tonight? Deb asked me a question that I didn't know. Glasses. will we be discussing the lawsuit settlement in executive session tonight? Deb, I don't think we are by the looks of what the superintendent just gave me. Maybe you could confer with him and we'll have it next. Should we be doing something on the next meeting, Deb? I don't know what it,
That was my understanding, but I'm assuming they would know more than I at this point. Thank you very much.
yeah, we have
I'm not
nothing.
versed, or up to speed.
Okay, we have nothing on that tonight, but
We
maybe,
need to do a quick executive session, like 5 minutes, so that we're not all sitting here. kind of.
no, I think we don't have anything.
Yeah.
We're not going into executive session. All right, so we're gonna go into director's comments, and I'm gonna start with David.
Thank you, Molly. I'm all set.
Deb Wright,
It looks like I'm all set tonight too. Thank you.
okay, Margot,
I'm all set, thanks.
woo,
Hmm.
Ian. Are you all set, Ian?
I am all set, and also I don't know how to use Zoom.
I still didn't hear him.
Mm-mm.
Brenda,
I'm all set.
Jason,
Yeah, I'd just like to real quick acknowledge Veterans Day this week. And to our men and women in uniform, past, present, and future, God bless you and thank you.
Mhm.
thank you. Priscilla,
Just a shout out to our team that's still going to the States this weekend, and that we're proud of all the ones and all their accomplishments over the last week.
and you beat me to it, Priscilla, but very, very proud of being part of this community and this school and watching all of these kids succeed on the field and off the field. I spent a lot of time in the last few Friday night football games at the snack shack for the Booster Club, and what a great group of people. And you know, you've got some women there that are just so committed. All I do is show up and make some coffee, but these women plan this all week long and run and get stuff and have things, and it's a real joy for me to be part of that, and they just let me come in and do my thing, and I don't have to, you know, I have no other responsibilities other than making some hot cocoa and some coffee, but it's just been a great experience. And I'm real proud to be part of that. They're really good people, and they're doing it for nothing but for our kids. And it's just a great establishment, so thank you to the Booster Club, and thanks for letting me be part of it. And I'm gonna say the meeting is adjourned at 7:53.
All right.
Night.
All right.